All right, awesome. Thanks for the introduction. Let's get started. So yeah, presentation today is talking about cryptocurrency donations. Crypto philanthropy is what we call the categorical idea of people donating crypto to charities and then charities actively fundraising it. There's corporate aspects and other stuff we'll get into as well. My background started in the pharma industry, but quickly jumped over to the Lupus Foundation. So worked at a nonprofit as the integration director. At the same time, started trading cryptocurrencies. My co-founder, Alex Wilson, is the one who got me into crypto at the beginning. So same time that I started getting into cryptocurrency, I was working in a nonprofit and trying to build out a completely new sort of management structure for the organization, as well as fundraising best practices. We pretty much quickly aligned around the fact that one, we saw hundreds of millions of dollars at that time, the end of 2017, when Bitcoin hit that first all-time high around 20,000 per unit. A bunch of money getting donated to a really small pool of nonprofits. And then two, like the way to set up a charity to take crypto and then instruct them on how to fundraise it effectively seemed to not be there. There wasn't really the abridging components from a technical or a fundraising standpoint. And so the Giving Block hence came to be. We set up my nonprofit to take crypto and started building out the first real comprehensive crypto philanthropy program with end-to-end marketing and fundraising best practices. And as a result, I am and the members of my team part of a group of people who have answered more nonprofit and donor questions around cryptocurrency than practically every other organization combined. So we're pretty obsessed with it and pumped to run you through the basics. Okay, as a check-in question, if you all want to pop that, you know, just enter your answers in there. Is your organization already accepting crypto? Then if the answer is yes, was there a moment, something that drove y'all to accept it? Maybe you have a boss who really wanted it because he's trading it, or you had a boss who really wanted it because she talked to the board and wanted to drive it through, or you are the champion internally, whatever it might be, let us know. And then what has you most excited about crypto, regardless of whether or not you're accepting it currently? You guys can plug that stuff in. That's helpful for us to know and inform some of the stuff we talk about. Okay. What we're covering today, what is cryptocurrency in a very fundamental sense? I know a lot of folks are still grappling with the underlying tech. Who uses this stuff? Then who donates it, which is different, a different set of incentives there versus the active user base overall. Why are they doing this? Like, what are the driving factors behind people who are making these contributions? Why fundraise crypto, which is different than accepting it, of course. Like, why would it be worth sort of spending time and energy actively investing in this donor demographic? And then how crypto fundraising works from a fundamental standpoint, how to do so effectively. At any point throughout the presentation, obviously, of course, please keep plugging in questions and we'll run through those at the end. Okay, what is cryptocurrency? This is a very fraught question just in general. It's one of those things where we always kind of start by saying for combustion engines, for Bluetooth, for Wi-Fi, refrigeration, microwaves, you can just kind of go down the line. Most technologies we interface with on a basic level, even the internet conceptually, we don't really grapple with the underlying tech. So things like mining Bitcoin and that process, like how new Bitcoin is minted and entered into an ecosystem, the differences between individual cryptocurrencies, that's more for folks who participate in the technology overall, very similar to the degree to which you would need to know how to build a server, say to have a Facebook account. I always just set that as a level set. You absolutely don't need to be an engineer to interface with this stuff in the same way you don't need to be a world-class economist to accept regular donations. But it is helpful to know like why people are buying this, right? Because there is fear that this thing might not be stable. It's kind of a meme, right? People are investing in it because there's a lot of momentum, but it's ultimately mostly a bubble and there's not a whole lot of underlying value. That still seems to be somewhat pervasive, even though There's about 200 million users currently. In short, different types of money have different types of features. All of these features are either valuable or sort of offsets, things that you wouldn't want to be a feature of that currency, but we trade off certain functionality for certain downsides based on what's the best type of money to use for a particular thing, money or asset. Cryptocurrencies at a fundamental level took certain attributes from things like gold, stocks, and existing currencies, and they created a really effective digital form of value asset that could be transferred very quickly, very efficiently, internationally, and you can, with confidence, transact using this cryptocurrency without needing any middlemen. So the level of efficiency and the scalability of having like a true technology behind money versus something like a US dollar, which is more just an idea backed by a government, is very interesting. In the early days, there were a lot of people investing in it because of those core attributes. So blockchain being the underlying tech behind it, that's making this whole system work. All you really need to know about blockchain kind of settles down around Bitcoin itself. Bitcoin's been around for now over a decade, and there have been 0 transaction records changed. That's a big deal compared to the traditional financial system, where you'll see hundreds of billions of dollars in fines to traditional banks on an annual basis because they are pretending money exists somewhere it doesn't, or saying it went somewhere it didn't go. There's an incredible amount of inefficiency in the traditional financial system, and as a result, a lack of confidence that people have in their institutions. So in short, Bitcoin, if you have access to any Bitcoin wallet, if someone tells you what their wallet address is, you can follow that unit of Bitcoin back to its origins when it was originally released in a perfectly auditable trail. That's the effective technology behind it, plus the fact that you can't make more of it. A built-in scarcity like gold are the 2 fundamental attributes that make it what some believe to be like a really worthy store of value type investment. And a lot of capital moves into that. 95% of hedge funds, for example, are invested in Bitcoin or moving money in because it has that functionality of gold, where there can't be any additional gold kind of printed out of thin air until we do asteroid mining, but that's down the road. So imagine a version of gold, I guess, for Bitcoin that you can put money into as a store of value, but you can move $1 billion worth of it, actually move it anywhere in the world in a matter of seconds. From an economic utility standpoint, like that's an amazing piece of technology. And now take the fact that you can't alter transaction records, and if you put money into that, no one else can lay claim to having a unit. That's very compelling. So the offset of that is something like traditional currencies like the US dollar. You can just Google lines around the banks after the Great Depression. You can think about India, taking a bunch of their notes offline overnight and saying they're suddenly worthless, or Venezuela or Germany after World War I printing their currency into obsolescence. Bitcoin, with Bitcoin, that can't happen. So longer than I probably should have even dug in on it. But in short, the reason that people are putting money into crypto is it fundamentally performs functions that gold has, like a store of value. You can't have any extras of it. The code itself is written in a way where you can't make fake versions or duplicates, like stocks, and the fact that the value is speculative and people can trade into and out of the asset very much directly on a second-to-second basis. And then like a currency, it can be moved from position A to position B very effectively. The reason you don't see it being used to, say, buy a hot dog at a ball game is because the same reason you wouldn't use gold or stocks to do that. Like, yes, it is more efficient to transfer than those 2 assets, but you trigger a taxable event every time you do such. And you're also getting rid of the Bitcoin, which is a hedge against inflation, rather than spending $1, which is getting printed by the moment and being worth less over time. So there is no real incentive in a for-profit sense to be spending Bitcoin. It's a value asset like gold that you invest in, and then you speculate on the value as the technology becomes more widely adopted. Hopefully that's clear, and hopefully at the very least, whoever's on this webinar currently understands that in a very, very fundamental sense, Bitcoin is a superior form of money/value asset to every other form of money/value asset that has ever existed. And then of course there are factors with Bitcoin that are less than those other things. There are trade-offs, but it's a very legitimate and staple piece of the now digitized financial system. Okay, so who's using this stuff? Today there are, I mean, this is as of a few months ago, and the user base usually doubles every year and a half or so. This year, yeah, user base doubled in a little over half a year. 200 million users, for context of that, that's about 3 times as much as people using Venmo. So it's a very large user base. Largest percentage group is Millennials and Gen Zs for sure. They, in certain polls, they now have like, some polls have 50% or more of Millennials and Gen Zs investing in cryptocurrency rather than stocks. Like it is their preferred mode of investment at a tipping point between that 50-50. So as the great wealth transfer happens, a lot more of these Millennials and Gen Zs who reach their peak earning years, they're throwing money into crypto, which is what's driving the multi-trillion-dollar market cap. On top of, you can see Gen X and then boomer investors as well, hedge funds, endowments, trusts, like people who have large amounts of capital. Because Bitcoin has been the best performing asset of the last decade and the best performing asset of the last 5 years, it's got like a really well-established track record as a great hedge against inflation and store of value. A lot more institutional money is flowing in. Those two things coupled together means that your institutional and high net worth donors who are giving large amounts of money are more and more likely to be holding crypto. And that's rapidly increasing, by the moment. And then your young donors are, for the most part, either carrying or very close to carrying cryptocurrency on a day-to-day basis, and it tends to be their most tax incentivized mode to give, which we'll get into. So it's kind of a perfect storm, a confluence of these variables that make it a really interesting technology from a donor standpoint. So down the right side here, Millennials and Gen Z's, really young donor base. They're crypto maximalists. A lot of these people, the cryptocurrency is not just a donation method, it is their culture. So you combine those things and it makes it a really interesting fundraising tool. Like the fact that you're taking it and the content you put out is in and of itself exciting. Compounding that with your mission is pretty compelling. Populations without access to traditional financial systems are experimenting with this. You can see El Salvador and other places starting to make it an accepted form of legitimized currency. Like on a country-to-country basis. Investors seeking big returns, of course, people trading into and out of it, countries, NFT artists and collectors, and then, of course, curious, ordinary people. Again, 200 million people means that, I mean, here's a great stat for you also. Since 2018, Coinbase has had more users than Charles Schwab, Fidelity, or E-Trade. That's a lot. So there are more people using crypto exchanges in the US than any of the top brokerages for stocks on like a user-based standpoint. There's a lot of money in stocks, obviously, and there are a lot of different levels of accounts. So do with that stat as you will, but it's dramatic how many folks are using it. Okay, who donates it? Millennials and Gen Z. So first and foremost, if you're a university or something and you're graduating a class of people on an annual basis, you're trying to establish a giving relationship with, and you're not accepting crypto, that doesn't make a lot of sense just because of the percentage odds of them having it, and because of how tax incentivized it is. If you are a nonprofit who's looking to sort of get younger, it can be a part of that strategy, of course, trying to attract people directly out of this user base, because today there's about 400,000 crypto users per nonprofit who's actively fundraising it. And then I guess for nonprofits who are already, young user base in general, if that's your vibe, then this obviously fits in quite nicely with it. But that's the Millennial and Gen Z's angle, right? They're already donating crypto more frequently than stocks. And since 2017, fun fact, donate Bitcoin has been searched more globally than donate stocks. That's been a 4-year running trend. Still more money is donated in stocks, of course, just because there's so much capital in it. But that's, again, significant. We're seeing indications of a tipping point and dramatically more money going in. Right now, it's a couple $2 billion as an ecosystem, but as it scales up to a $3-4 trillion asset class, that money goes up accordingly. NFT artists are another donor demographic here, right? So these are folks who are making money in the NFT space. Right now, there's about $100 million in daily trading volume of non-fungible tokens. All that is like Bitcoin, is a unit of cryptocurrency that can be sent anywhere in the world and perfectly traced back to its origin. They attach a hash on a blockchain like you do with Bitcoin, but to a piece of art instead. So you can quite literally own a piece of digital art that no one can lay claim to and no one create a fake duplicate of. It allows for an art ecosystem online that is immutable and legitimate. So, you know, the most expensive one I think has sold for 66 million, is the priciest piece of crypto art that exists to date. But again, hundreds of millions of dollars being traded all the time in crypto related art, which is NFTs. And then finally, corporate and institutional donors. The companies in the crypto space are creating, obviously, founders and individuals who are the next generation of billionaires. There's already a bunch of billionaires and hundreds of thousands of crypto millionaires. And then for the companies themselves, because they are the center of this emerging financial ecosystem, they have very deep pockets. And they're compelled to enter into CSR type relationships and make donations for tax offset and then also for brand building on top of just the goodness in their heart. Just like any other industry, the difference being they're very nascent and those relationships don't exist. It's pretty hard to get, you know, Coca-Cola to go one-on-one with you if you are a nonprofit, but these crypto companies are doing it all the time, sometimes with relatively small, mid-sized charities. So that's a breakdown on the donor demographic. It's also, as you can see up top, the fastest growing donor demographic. There are tens of millions of people in the US, for instance, this year. Like the best estimate would probably be like somewhere between 20 and 25 million, who are most tax incentivized to give crypto above stocks, credit card, wire, all the way down. They will end up with more money in their pocket making the same donation if they give their cryptocurrency instead. So whichever of them have a tax advisor worth their salt will do so. And the menu is still, of course, relatively limited. Only you know, somewhere between 500 and 1,000 charities actively fundraising crypto. Okay, why do they donate? So the tax piece that I keep touching on here, this is really important for US nonprofits. It hasn't really come up a ton with stocks unless you're a big nonprofit with major donors who give stocks all the time. Just because the average person who has stocks doesn't actively trade it. Most people are just moving money into their 401k, a retirement fund, whatever it might be. But the only reason you have capital gains taxes to offset with a charitable gift is if you are trading into and out of a position. Crypto looks very different. So 200 million users, but practically all of them have capital gains tax burdens because every time you move between cryptos or NFTs, you're creating a taxable event. So you're getting these really young donors or first-time millionaires, and of course a handful of billionaires, but high net worth individuals making a bunch of money on a new asset class that is capital gains taxed, just like stocks. It's a property asset, so same tax designation. And then their tax advisor says, hey, if you want to offset your capital gains taxes, if you're making a charitable donation, you want to give your most appreciated assets first, because crypto is the most appreciated or the best performing asset class. It's gone up the most over the last 5 years and 10 years. And it's 4x'd, for instance. It's gone up 400% over the last year. Generally speaking, if people have crypto is the first thing they're advised to give because it's gone up more than their stocks on average. As a result, back to that number, we have, like based on today, somewhere between 20 and 30 million people in the US this year who are anticipated to be most tax incentivized to donate their crypto specifically to charities, which makes it a really big donor demographic with a larger average gift size and a really compelling tax incentive to give. Crypto adoption is the second piece here. A lot of people give what we call high five donations at the giving block. They're donating crypto because you take crypto. Now that piece will go away as crypto becomes more mainstream. But right now, especially when large charities do it, it's like an easy windfall. If you're a charity with any reasonable amounts of social following, whatever it would be, and you just say you take it, people are throwing crypto at the charity just to be like, hey, that's awesome. Like, how cool is it that like clients that we have, like American Cancer Society, Save the Children, United Way Worldwide, those kinds of groups, just a lot of high five donations. They post about crypto and then all those people give their tax offsets to them. But in general, even small charities, that people are pumped to see charities getting into crypto because it's still considered not super mainstream, and they see the charities as legitimizing and driving the broader mainstream adoption of the tech. They like that, so they send a little crypto as a high five, sometimes a lot of crypto. And then finally, impact. Crypto donors are, of course, donors. They're giving because of your mission, your calls to action, et cetera, but it's pretty nice to have those secondary components of a hyper tax incentivized asset, plus the fact that they think it's cool that you're taking it to begin with, in a way where you can't stand up at your gala, right, and say, where are my credit card people at? And everyone like waves them around like we see at like galas where people are taking crypto and pumping up the user base. Please remember, yeah, ask questions throughout this. Also, I want to make sure we get to stuff. Why fundraise it? We've touched on a lot of stuff already. One great stat that isn't in here, which is helpful. Millennial investors, on average, have about 25% of their, no, I take that back, sorry, I'm going to do that stat wrong. 47% of millennial millionaires have 25% or more of their net worth in crypto. So you'll have to run the numbers on that. I know it's got two numbers in the same stat, so it makes it a little bit dicey, but it's still super compelling. About half of millennials who are millionaires have 25% or more of their net worth in cryptocurrency investments. That obviously becomes the most desirable major gift donor demographic moving forward, again, during the wealth transfer and reaching peak earning years. That's a really compelling stat. And that number continues to go up on an annual basis. So to form the relationship with the next generation of major gift prospects is probably one of the most compelling reasons. Like, these are the most tech savvy, financially literate, generally speaking, on track to be the most high net worth individuals. And they're young enough to where they don't have hardcore formalized giving relationships that already exist. And even now in their youth, where you're usually kind of trying to get these young donors, right, because they're engaging, they'll bring people to your walks program, they'll grow your social following, but they don't really give right now. Crypto donors on our platform right now, this past month, average gift size was 16,000. Average gift size across our existence is 11,000. They're giving more than the average major gift prospect in general right now, plus of course the future value of the relationship and their gifts. They have a really long runway to give, and those things compound obviously very nicely. Rising market cap. Crypto is actually, if it's not already there, it's close to $3 trillion market cap today. And Bitcoin's market cap is about to pass that of silver. That is the precious metal silver, which is pretty exciting. It would then go gold, Bitcoin, silver in terms of total market cap. Again, more money invested in Bitcoin than silver. It's pretty exciting. I believe, I hope I have this number right, I think it would be globally, in terms of just money, it would be the 12th largest currency. That's just Bitcoin among cryptocurrencies. Be something like the 10th largest company. I don't know the company one. Don't quote me on the last one, the company bit, but I do have some stats for y'all. So anyway, there's a ton of money in crypto. The market is going up a ton. And as a result, because it's a property asset, people who have money in crypto that's gone up a lot are advised by tax advisors to donate their crypto specifically to charities first, and then back down using their most appreciated assets. Unless they have a stock that's outperforming their Bitcoin and their altcoins, they're donating Bitcoin / other cryptocurrencies. So really good spot to be in for high net worth individuals right now who are in the younger demographic and the older demographic who's now diversifying into crypto, which you see in the hedge fund stat below. I know I'm bouncing around this slide. 94% of users are millennials and Gen Zs, but again, Gen X and baby boomers actually have the most money invested in crypto. So that major gift prospect, corporate donors, people who have, treasury management and reserves, they're more likely to have money invested in crypto. And again, same thing for those high net worth individuals who are older. If their crypto, even if they just have 1% of their money in crypto, goes up more than their other investments, that is what they'll be advised to donate first. So it is the first and front line of the way that major gift donors will be donating, even with minimal investment into it, and they'll back down from there, depending on how much they're holding. That's it. I bounced around that in a horrific order, so it's probably impossible to balance what I said with the slide. But hopefully if you were just closing your eyes and listening, that was easy enough to follow. Please keep asking questions, of course, too. Okay, how this works. We say to nonprofits too who work with us, they're like, we want to open an account with a Giving Block and like fundraise crypto. What does it look like? The hardest part is opening the account, quite literally, because crypto is so heavily regulated. It's a big misconception that it's not regulated. You have to go through the same hurdles you have to do to open an institutional bank account. So they use, they collect your information, all the information about the org, your EIN, they do the background check stuff. That app probably takes an hour, and then it usually takes up to a week for them to give you the thumbs up. They do the compliance review. That's the hard part. Then it's, for us, we just pop a widget on your site that you can put anywhere and accept crypto. So that's the account piece. You want to make sure that you have an institutional account, just because, one, you want to have a paper trail and the security of it, right? If you have cash in there from like ours, 90% plus the clients we serve automatically convert to US dollars. That's like a feature we turn on. So crypto hits and it cashes out, so you don't have to deal with price volatility. If you have an institutional account, then that obviously it's FDIC insured because it's a regulated financial entity, the cash balance. And then from like the donor side, for instance, if the donor goes to the IRS and you're just like holding a wallet somewhere and they're like, hey, I gave this money to a charity. And in terms of like paperwork and documentation, the IRS, like, how do I know you gave that to a charity? Kind of hard to explain it. So in short, please, even if you like go to open your own thing, if you're not working with the Giving Block, please use an institutional account. It'll make life easier for you and your team. It's more secure and safe. They can limit what crypto goes on to and off of the platform, protect you from illicit funds, which we've to date quite literally never had one effectively flagged as such. We had one flag that they said might be connected to a hack, and then ended up being inconclusive. So that's kind of an unreasonable fear also. But because everyone is concerned about the hypothetical, do the institutional account so that, like us, you're protected from stuff like that. And then also just because you want to give your donor a paper trail so you don't have to build all that stuff out from scratch. Make it easy to give. You want like a low friction process for crypto donors. For instance, like through our solution, we do anonymous as an option for people to give. It's not anonymous in the sense that the exchange no longer traces the transaction records, or they don't block sanctioned countries from sending donations or blacklisted accounts. All of that stuff exists in the same way when you swipe a credit card at a gas station. The only difference would be like if the person at the gas station was like, hey, can I have your home address? And you said, no, thanks. It's still Visa's responsibility, obviously, to track the transaction. So in short, from the donor perspective, we give donors in crypto who are, of course, a little bit more sensitive around like information collection. They're built around a cryptographic technology. We give them the option to donate without giving any personal details to the charity. They just plug in an email and they automatically receive a tax receipt. And then we just leave it to the exchange to, make sure that the funds that are coming onto and off the platform are safe. That kind of stuff, mobile optimizing your page, all the things you want to do to make it easy to give crypto to your charity. Make sure you check those boxes. Attracting crypto donors, this part's super important. Crypto donors are not, or rather crypto donations aren't a donation method, it's a donor demographic, and it needs to be thought of as such. There are a lot of nonprofits in like 2018 in particular, when we first got started, who were like set up to take crypto, and they just kind of let it sit there through like very peak opportunity years of getting in front of crypto donors and establishing meaningful relationships, right, with donors and exchanges. Like everyone's pairing up, right, with a nonprofit. They're picking their causes, they're forming relationships, there's brand partnerships with exchanges, and that just becomes more calcified over time and it gets harder to crack in. Right now, it's still very much wide open. Back then, it was extra wide open. There were a lot of charities who just like put a button that said donate crypto on their site and they stopped thinking about it. There's way too much money in crypto to do that right now. Eventually, it'll become a behind the scenes payment method. Again, like stocks and credit cards and stuff like that. You just pop it on your site and let people pick it as one of the options. That's not how this works right now. There are a ton of people using this stuff and very few nonprofits knocking at their door trying to set up, that first point of contact and relationship. So having specific crypto calls to action, even if it's the occasional tweet saying, hey, remember, we take crypto, you can support us using it, all the way down to calling your crypto fundraising program by a name, giving an identity. We built out the American Cancer Society's Cancer Crypto Fund, for instance. They fundraise for cancer research. They do rounds of it. They blast out comms about how much they're raising. and they measure the success of their crypto donors. They have a wall to honor crypto donors specifically. You don't have to do everything, but just do something, I guess. If you're already taking crypto even without us, please make sure to get out there and say something. It doesn't take a ton of time. You don't have to run a crypto specific fundraiser. You don't have to build out an entirely new ecosystem. Just like try to figure out where these folks are at and like get in front of them. That's like what we spend, I'd say, more than half of our time on with individual clients and then through stuff that we build. Then provide a tax receipt. Finally, at the end of the transaction, we do like an automated tax receipt. But if you're already accepting crypto and you're on this call, please make sure when donors come through that you're issuing that tax receipt. There can be, you just end up having to do a longer trail in communication with a donor, trying to reconcile all that stuff later at the end of the year. Just trace back donation information, whatever it might be, especially if you're doing hundreds of crypto donations a day. It could be a big pain. So if you don't have that, set one up, like an automated process for generating receipts, and then make sure those receipts are compliant, of course. I'll get off my soapbox. That was long enough. Okay. How to raise crypto effectively. We touched on the fact that it's really important to do so, to try. And again, starting with very much low-hanging fruit stuff. Mobile optimize your site, add content to your donation page about the fact that you take crypto so people can find you off the internet. Try to plug into campaigns related to crypto fundraising, know where these conversations are happening. In short, we'll go over like best practices. Top left corner here, inform. Share facts about the tax benefits. Share what cryptocurrencies you take, express the fact that you're taking it. Make sure that your existing audience and then the channels that you've expressed effectively that you're taking crypto and there's a reason to give it to you. Not everyone who has crypto knows about the tax incentives yet. Like it's still kind of nascent and growing, which leaves a lot of money on the table. It's great to put out stuff that's meaningful for the donor that says something about crypto. How much crypto have you raised to date? What is your goal? Whatever it might be. Inform your donors and your population, one, again, that you take it, and then two, like, where's this thing heading? It doesn't need to be a core piece of content. It can be a few things every now and then. Spread it across your platforms to get the word out, and just put out feelers. You don't need to really overthink and engineer it, create some crazy campaign. Just very plain and simple. We take crypto. Here's some of the reasons to donate it. Here's the impact you can have by donating crypto. Here's how we honor them. Top right, engage. Interacting with the crypto community, Twitter, Reddit, Discord, these are really good platforms for that. We build out kind of like what we call marketing toolkits. We have an end of year toolkit that we just built out and launched that has like different ways to engage different stuff on here, but you can find some stuff online also about how to engage that community. Using hashtags like donate crypto and crypto for good. I wouldn't, crypto for good, I wouldn't necessarily use in here. I know we've plugged that into stuff, but I'd say donate crypto is more commonly used. Crypto Giving Tuesday, bag season, those are the two main campaigns we run at the end of the year. The majority of volume we do for the year happens in the month of December. Last month, we raised a little over 13 million just in the month. So in the month of December, we're trying to raise between 50 and 100 million platform-wide. Bag season and Crypto Giving Tuesday are the two main campaigns that we build out, like toolkits and run and campaign around. But even if you're not working with us directly, you can throw the hashtag in. Although I would ping us and get intel, I guess, on the timing of the campaigns. Respect, privacy is a part of crypto. Donors may wish to give anonymously. Some don't want to leave contact info. The only reason we have this piece is it's more from like a donor ethics standpoint. There are a lot of donors in the crypto community who make a bunch of money in crypto, and it's new and it's nascent, and they want to give to a nonprofit. We get notes all the time from folks where it's just like, they're a member of the LGBTQ community and they've never donated with traditional methods because they're worried about outing themselves. It's someone who's closeted and a member of that community, and now they're donating via crypto to certain causes because it's allowed them the ability to do so. We have, political activists in China who fundraise for different organizations we support, and they otherwise obviously couldn't participate using like a Chinese bank account. There's women in Afghanistan learning to code, and they need male guardians to give them access to their money. Like they can't choose whether or not they have it. And they're learning to code like blockchain coding and then getting paid in crypto and owning their own accounts. So I would just say research the human rights aspects of cryptocurrency and the quote unquote anonymous nature of it. As long as you're using an exchange, they still surveil and make sure that anyone who's used money that's connected to anything illicit isn't getting sent to you specifically, but you can do so while still respecting donor privacy. You absolutely don't have to. We have dozens. We have 700 plus nonprofits. We probably have maybe 24 that don't accept anonymous donations. It's exceedingly rare though. So you always can do that, but it's more just kind of, again, soapbox, my personal perspective. And then optimize, search engine optimize your donation page, and then mobile optimize your donation page. Make it really easy and obvious, one, to find that thing, the page that you're accepting crypto through. And then when they get there, optimize the content on there to drive to a conversion. Like why crypto specifically, you can go, on the givenblog.com, you can go through charities we have. There's like a why Bitcoin section or why crypto section. Why are they taking it? Where does the money go? All that stuff. This is normal nonprofit stuff, not just crypto, but tied to a crypto specific thing, just because you're definitely going to get a lot more conversion. Okay. We are under 145, which is perfect. So we can get to questions.
Awesome. Pat, let me know if you can see at the control panel a box that says questions. If you don't, I can read them for you, but let me know.
I see it. I'm trying to open it up.
Okay.
They're in rows, so it's kind of hard to read.
Yeah, so the way to undock it is next to the X where you would close that box. There's a little square with an arrow going out of it. Please click on that square so that you can undock it.
Oh, I see there at the bottom. Okay.
Perfect. We have a lot of questions though.
Yeah. I'll rip through it. This is a great one. Crypto uses a tremendous amount of energy. This is a very, I wouldn't say common concern, but it's something we're starting to hear more. There's a lot of pieces getting put out there. As someone who worked for pharma lobbyists as a consultant going into the opioid crisis, which is when I left for not unobvious reasons, there's a lot of movement in the crypto community. There's some cryptocurrencies that use what's called proof of stake, some that use proof of work. There's a big movement by the proof of stake cryptocurrencies to put out kind of hit stuff on Bitcoin to talk about, again, without the context of how much energy traditional financial system uses, just like how much energy Bitcoin uses, trying to stop people from using it more often. In short, crypto, like Bitcoin, does use like a bunch of energy. Like it's not nearly as energy efficient as it should be, but the vast majority of energy used is like super green, or green rather, and renewable. They're on the cutting edge of all of that stuff. So you got to cut out the percentage of it that is versus isn't green. And then you have to run the considerations around like how much energy you're using to accept a donation versus like mining farms, et cetera. Great analogy would be like, there's a difference between accepting a sponsorship from BP or Exxon, right? Versus saying we won't accept donations from people who use gasoline. In short, like accepting Bitcoin and cryptocurrency donations, or saying like we won't accept that because of the energy that individual transaction would use to send us a gift is, I mean, just kind of mathematically irrational. That's just, it would be unreasonable to find a line between that and then like you guys, you take credit cards with plastic slips and skyscrapers that are being air conditioned indefinitely and a million cars that go there to reconcile transactions. It's not, it's relatively arbitrary. So yes, it uses a lot of energy. It's becoming more energy efficient over time due to advancements. But the line as to whether or not it's like unethical to accept it versus other payment methods is silly. It's just arbitrary from a mathematical standpoint. It definitely should use less energy and get more efficient though, just regardless. So they're making improvements, and a lot of cryptos are transitioning to what's called a proof of stake system. Best explanation of Bitcoin I've ever heard. Thank you so much. I said the same thing like 16 times and went in circles, but I'm glad that was helpful. Can you transfer it to US dollars? Yes. More than, I'd say, like 90% of our clients have auto conversion on. Crypto hits and it's automatically sold for US dollars. But you can also hold it, of course, or a combination. You can convert to US dollars and then invest into it like an endowment. We have nonprofits that do crypto treasury management. But the vast majority are just people, again, who set up the equivalent of a bank account. They accept crypto and it automatically converts to cash. Really easy as like a starting point. Which ecosystem do you recommend for NFTs? As a nonprofit, we'd like to offer NFTs for those who donate. That's very, I guess, dangerous from a regulatory standpoint. I would partner with platforms that do NFTs. We get, I mean, probably like $100,000 a day, probably across the platform in NFT related cryptocurrency donations. They're donating the crypto from proceeds, the platforms, the artists, the studios, the creators, the traders. But the NFTs themselves are more like artwork than assets. So in short, there's two things. Like one, you don't want to be creating NFTs that ultimately they eventually deem something connected to it to be an unregistered security, whatever it might be. And then the second reason is the accounting. You need to account for like the creation of it and the fair market value and the transfers that go on with it. It's just kind of dicey. So if there's a platform that wants to give out an NFT for people who donate, that's great. Or they can do an NFT drop where they sell the NFTs and you get all the proceeds. Again, great, much more clear cut and simple. I would just shoot us a note. I guess there's a million ways to fundraise via the growth of the NFT community without actually like minting your own NFTs from the inside out and then like spreading them around to people in a way where the accounting and complexity. I'd say crawl, walk, run. It would be, again, like if you said, I want to get into the internet and you're like, we're going to start by building a room full of servers. That would be the equivalent, I'd say, of minting NFTs. But you might be obviously a developer or something and further along. I'm just saying this for every nonprofit's context. If an individual donates through a platform like the Giving Block, is donation anonymous with just a wallet transaction number? Does the nonprofit receive the donor's contact info? Again, we have the option available for nonprofits to mandate that every donor provides their info before sending a transaction. The vast majority allow donors to give yes anonymously. And again, by anonymous, I mean the nonprofit gets no information about the donor. The donor still needs to use a passport, a driver's license, et cetera, to open the account that they buy into and out of crypto. And then they need to transfer through your exchange account, who shares information with the other exchanges, uses NASDAQ market surveillance, all the good stuff you would expect out of a regulated financial entity. Again, in the same way, if you go into a CVS and they're like, hey, give us your address and your email, we'll give you like a 10% saver card. You can say no to that without your Visa transaction being somehow less traceable. So yes, anonymous on our platform, we offer the option, which most charities take, to accept anonymous donations. As in, you can't like steward that donor, they can choose to not stay in touch. Tax incentives apply to Canadians? No. Unfortunately, your tax law is the worst. So you actually kind of take a hit. There's still, surprisingly, just because a lot of Canadians are making money in crypto, like a bunch of people who donate crypto to charities, but they actually take a hit because they still have to pay taxes on that crypto after they've donated to the charity. So it's literally worse for a Canadian to donate crypto to a charity than it is to donate other donation methods, which is crazy, right? Like someone makes a bunch of money in something and you have like a perverse inverted tax incentive to kind of more or less dissuade them from giving some to a charity. So that's unfortunate. If I were a member of your parliament or whatever, I would be lobbying against that. But however, I'm not. I know we have an extensive tax incentive for donating to charities. I don't know what that question is. Oh, that's connected to the Canadian one. How can I determine the level of crypto use in my immediate area? Really hard. So if you have like a newsletter or whatever, you can ask your donors if they have crypto, of course, but that's usually not the best metric. For us as a platform, for instance, about 80% of donations we process come from new donors. And then 20% we're clipping a ticket on a nonprofit's existing donors. In short, 8 out of 10 donors to the nonprofits we support on the platform aren't from your existing donor base. It's we build campaigns and crypto corporate philanthropy programs. We run Crypto Giving Tuesday, bag season. We run the Crypto Giving Pledge, stuff like that. We create kind of epicenters and gravity centers around crypto donors. And then we train nonprofits to like communicate and market as a part of the campaigns that we're running. So all of the crypto users out there who want to do something charitable, we create all of the gateways to funnel them in. and then we funnel the nonprofits in through giving them marketing kits. They post, they engage, they approach companies, et cetera. And then we run kind of those partnerships with them and coordinate the donations and do the processing. So in short, if your nonprofit doesn't have a mission that would be interesting to donors outside of your immediate community, I would then recommend that you ask your donor base through like your newsletter, do you guys have crypto? See if you can find some major gifts that would justify setting up the account. But even if you are a local nonprofit, as long as your mission would be appealing, you know, if you're a local church even and you do like a backpacks drive for kids in your community, like you could post that anywhere. And like someone in Idaho, if your organization's in like Oregon, they still might want to, you know, send 15 grand to like support all the kids in your community getting backpacks. So you just got to know, does your mission translate to a general audience? If so, it's a ton of donors out there that are just like here for the taking. And if it doesn't, then of course you would want to, again, send to your newsletter and screen those donors. How does an NPO monetize a crypto donation? Again, it's just like stocks. So if you had an account, you'd be logging in and selling it when you saw the notification. But with us, it just automatically does that through a program. So in the same way, if you received shares of stocks in a Fidelity account, you would log in and just sell it on an open marketplace with billions of dollars in trading volume. We just have an exchange account on the back end, again, with billions of dollars of buy and sell trading volume. And you just sell in the same way on an open traded exchange that stocks and other assets work. What are names of other cryptocurrencies? Ethereum is the second largest cryptocurrency. Then there's something called USDC, which is a stable coin. It's all of the functionality of other cryptos, but pegged to the price of the US dollar. That allows people to use crypto more like a bank account and earn high interest on it without their principal going up and down in the way that like Bitcoin and ETH values go down. And then there's a million down the line, but there are thousands of, you know, legitimate cryptocurrencies out there in the same way there are a lot of stocks behind different companies and they're all doing something a little different. If you accept one crypto, do you accept all? No, not necessarily. We use an exchange called Gemini. We create like custom nonprofit accounts through them. We've become like an arm for that. And then as a result, all of the cryptos on Gemini we accept. Gemini, however, is the most conservative in terms of cryptos they list. So if you go to other exchanges, you can accept additional cryptocurrencies. 95% of donation volume is happening in the top 10 cryptocurrencies, which we accept. And then all the way down to the rest of our 40, it counts for, as far as we can tell, over 98%. So we frankly just think that 2% of additional potential donations isn't worth the risk of one of those donations being deemed an unregistered security or just being kind of a new crypto that we don't know a lot about. So in terms of risk mitigation, in our opinion, Gemini and their list of accepted cryptos is the safest bet if you're trying to figure out which cryptos to take rather than trying to like build your own series of wallets for a smaller collection. Odds are Gemini's legal team, in our opinion, has better resources and insights into which cryptocurrencies are legitimate enough to accept versus the average nonprofit. So we just kind of go with their counsel. Do you help setting up the institutional account? Absolutely. If you set up with us, it's just you sign up with our organization. We have annual subscriptions. I don't know. Am I guess in terms of pitch stuff, I want to be respectful to you all at Charity How To. Should I be going into business model stuff or should I bounce past those questions and into?
Pat, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so to everyone here, my name's Kurt. I'm the CEO and founder of Charity How To, and our mission is to educate purely and not to pitch a vendor. But what becomes interesting is when you have something ubiquitous like a Facebook and you start educating on Facebook, you get to this difference of where you cross the line. And so all I can say is the spirit here is, yeah, please answer those questions because I think there are people here who A, may be showing up to the Nonprofit Library webinar as well, our partner at Nonprofit Library, and B, I know that when looking at your website, you have a ton of nonprofits already accepting donations through you. So yeah, please feel free to answer those. Just everyone know that we're an education platform and there are certain exceptions where we try to cross that balance carefully. Thanks, Pat. Feel free to continue.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. It wasn't just like pitching specific packages or whatever. So in short, we help nonprofits take crypto, and there's two core packages we have. One is called Basic, which is a smaller subscription. We set up a nonprofit to accept crypto and just kind of take the headaches out of that. It automates the sale, the the setup, the triggering of tax receipts and all of that stuff, plus all of the universal resources we provide to our clients, like tax kits and campaigns stuff we run. We help them plug in to access new donor bases. And then we have one called Premium, which is active fundraising, which is more like nonprofits who are like, we really want to get in front of this donor demographic. We want an individualized plan. How do we set up our donation page? What is our call to action? How do we campaign? We're plugging into our awareness day, our awareness month, our live stream fundraiser, our end of year campaign. And those are the two main ways we serve. And then there's like custom stuff for different needs. But yes, we help set up the institutional account. We set the whole thing up, other than the obviously filling out of the application. An example of the crypto philanthropy service, that's exactly right. What are some platforms? So yeah, other platforms, like a good way to think about this is, again, like donation method versus donor demographic. This is where we sit the ecosystem. Right now, about 90% of donors give through us, and about 90% of nonprofits accept through us directly and through integrations. However, there are like platforms out there where you can accept crypto in a way that's more like a Shopify, very low transaction fee. If you want to just like pop a donate crypto button on your site, like a good example, I guess, would be like, I'm trying to think who would be recommendable. One, if you wanted to set up, I guess the best answer actually would be setting up a Gemini account directly on your own. It would be just Gemini general customer support. That'd probably be the starting point. You want to make sure you set up an institutional account, not an individual account. And then an alternative would be Coinbase. If you want to accept more cryptocurrencies, of course, that like there's increased risk from accepting a broader pool. But there's also more donor community. So depending on your level of insight and expertise in the area, that's an option as well. But yeah, I would say institutional crypto accounts. Those would be the two main platforms. You can access those directly and set up an account. And then you're part of obviously the regular customer support journey, but you can have that account. You would just then have to log in and sell the crypto for cash. The alternatives are like one would be endowment, which is good for just accepting ETH donations. But Bitcoin and ETH are kind of 50-50 of the ecosystem. If you're just trying to, like, let's say a donor wants to send you ETH one time, endowment is a great option. We work with them. Robbie over there is awesome. But it's not like a fundraising platform. So anyway, if you have more questions or if you're looking at something other than the ones I'm listing, just send it over and I can give you bullets on like pros and cons. Going to a reputable service provider. Yes, they're just saying for institutional accounts, again, Coinbase and Gemini are the two main ones. We, of course, prefer Gemini. Coinbase is an awesome company, though, also. We just don't like how many, I guess, cryptos they have listed, just because we don't know enough about those new ones. Examples of Mpos working crypto into their annual budget. Yeah, so it depends on the organization. Pretty much all of the blue chips use us because it's more of a no-brainer. If you have extra resources to invest in something like this, like a nascent donor demographic, we're out there. For small and mid-size, the calculus is different. Again, like the main consideration for you all is like, does your mission translate to a general audience? And then do you have like a stable budget and a stable fundraising approach? And then I guess also marketing. Like, do you have an active social media person? If you don't have those things, if your site isn't mobile optimized, if you don't really have a full-time social media person, you're like a sub $1 million budget, I would say like focus on the P's and Q's first, like get your organization stabilized and set up the right tracks. Crypto can become a distraction if you're small. It's not like a lottery ticket. I wouldn't put time and energy into crypto when you don't fundraise traditionally in a very sustainable way. Outside of that, if your budget is stable, your social media presence is stable, and you have the opportunity to go into this, the next question again, would this apply to a general audience? If the answer is yes, then I'd say definitely you want to accept crypto. Examples like Orangutan Outreach, they've tripled their budget this year. They were 500 grand a year last year. They've raised over $1 million in crypto through us this year. That's, again, anecdotal. It's not like every $500,000 org raises that much, but it's an example of like the high-end insight. And then as a platform, in terms of small and mid-sized nonprofits, we have hundreds of nonprofits with 5- and 6-figure crypto fundraising programs. So the idea of raising, 10 to 15% more on top of your annual budget with crypto, super reasonable, and that's like a mainstream crypto fundraising program. It again comes down to like if you're going to set up an account and put a button on your site, you shouldn't expect like a bunch of new crypto coming through, of course, because obviously you'll only get that from your existing donors. You hope they just up the ante because they've made a bunch of money. But if you are actively fundraising crypto, then yeah, I would say, generally speaking, somewhere between, so like for this year, for instance, the average nonprofit we serve will raise a little over $100,000 this year if we remain on the current track of nonprofits we're adding and money we're raising. Hopefully that answers your question. I know we're at the 2 o'clock mark. What is the time we're supposed to end on this? I want to be respectful.
So we are very fortunate not to have a back-to-back webinar today. And Pat, as long as you feel like staying on for some of those folks that are here, more than happy to let you run until you get some more questions, and also be respectful of your time. And for those folks who need to leave, of course, remember, we do record this. It is being recorded, and we'll send that recording tomorrow. So feel free to go on for a little bit longer and end out whenever it's good for you. All right.
Yeah.
Lots of great questions.
Jack it up. We do have a bunch of questions, and I have an internal meeting that someone else can take, because we have a lot of good questions here.
Same here.
I just sent a note, so let me see. Get back to the questions. I lost the pop out here for questions. Oh, over here. Got it.
Got it. Okay, good.
I can probably just, so they don't have to look at the same slide over and over again. Can everyone still see me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Let's see. What are your fees to manage? Yeah, so we are anywhere between 2 and 5%. Again, back to business model stuff. It depends on if they want active fundraising stuff, or services rather. I shouldn't say stuff, doesn't sound professional. Active fundraising versus, we have, for instance, donor advised funds use us often to build out their background rails, and they just do. We have one donor advised fund who's forecasting about $500 million in crypto next year. So it's like, we're not going to drive that for them. So it's the platform fee kind of goes away. It's just like low conversion fees. But for charities, if it's a charity that can fundraise from our audience, you know, from new donors, then it's usually 5% total. And then if it's something like a church or a foundation, a group that can't really get new donors to give in a crowdfunding type way, then it's usually 3%. Does the Giving Block work with charities in Canada? Yeah, we work with a bunch of international groups. Again, the Canadian tax incentives are really bad, but a lot of our Canadian groups get donations from non-Canadians, just because it's, a lot of this comes down to cost because of the offset of how many donors there are versus the nonprofits accepting. What's the difference between crypto and NFT? We touched on that. Is it best practice to immediately transfer to USD or to hold the cryptocurrency? This is a great question. There is no right answer there, right? So it depends on your organization, your mission, if you have an existing endowment. If I told you when it made more sense to hold on to crypto, when it made sense to sell it, I would have an infinite amount of money.
I chuckle because I was going to literally say that. You can't, there's no answer for that, right? But you could hold on to some from the perspective of, if you believe you want to build an asset over time and you can keep a small percentage and some of it, the rest of it to cash if you wanted, right?
Yes, of course. And it's, what I would say is, if you have an endowment or any sort of, if you're managing any reasonable amount of capital as an individual or as an institution, again, crypto is the best performing asset class of the last decade. It's the best performing asset class the last 5 years, probably the last 2-3 years. Like, over any significant period of time, it's outperformed it's outperformed literally everything else for over a decade. So will it keep going up forever and at the same rate? It's like, no, like, there's ratios of this and calculus you have to do. What I will say is, it's 100% silly at this point to not seriously consider diversifying into crypto if you're managing any serious amount of money. Like, it would be absurd to not be looking at it critically. So you might go, no, cryptocurrency as a marketplace is very much overvalued right now. I'm going to sit on the sidelines, or I don't believe the underlying technology is worth what these traditional investors think it is, and I'm actually not into this. Like, it's fine to say no to it. But if you are managing an endowment, if you're a university or whatever else it is, you're a church, or you just have capital that you sit on, like, you gotta look at it. So then you ultimately make a decision as to the ratios, if you do get into crypto, what types of crypto, or you decide not to do it at all. But like, yes, absolutely, you got to look at it. If you're a charity that doesn't have an endowment, like, no, you probably don't have to like create one just for crypto and like reimagine the way you manage money all of a sudden. Sometimes that makes sense, but generally speaking, it's not like a mandate. You can just easily take it like any donation method, convert out into US dollars and be on your merry way. Hopefully that's helpful. I know I kind of talked out of both sides there, but it's, there's a calculation to be had. A very centralized way for a nonprofit to accept donations. I'm not being cynical, but what are the benefits? Partnering with the Giving Block? Sure, it's a great question. So there's, it's not even just the Giving Block, but there are some concepts that we are built off of and like things that we apply here. That's, I think, the kind of secret sauce for our success. In short, there's no other set of organizations that are like consistently fundraising crypto. It's a matter of if you want crypto to be like a consistent revenue stream, you want to tack it right now as a trend, versus if you're looking for a donation method, you can pop behind the scenes. If you're the latter, it's probably not going to make sense to work with us. If you don't want to use any of our resources or training, or like come to sessions, get our marketing kits, plug into campaigns that we run, probably not. All the stuff we do is very light lift, and generally speaking, again, like nonprofits switch to us to do that sort of thing, and no nonprofits plug out of it. But sorry, in short, to answer your question, things like the Crypto Giving Pledge, the Crypto Adoption Fund, cause funds, and things that we've put together, corporate philanthropy programs. If you go one by one, if there's a company in the crypto space that wants to do anything philanthropic, we're the go-to for that. So the major exchanges like FTX and Gemini, like these big companies that do crypto payments, the majority of like serious crypto philanthropy programs, they go through us because we build them out for them. As a result, those integrations on those platforms to give to charities, and then the programs they run where their users or their employees are giving to charity, like those funnel through us because we put in the work, we build that out. For the Crypto Giving Pledge, if you're a high net worth person or company who wants to donate 1% or more of your crypto to charity each year, we run that. So we built that campaign out. We have Tony Hawk and Rainn Wilson and a bunch of crypto billionaires and companies that throw their capital through that. We build those sorts of campaigns out again because we're at this intersection that we run that money through. So that's tens of millions of dollars in annual crypto donations already right there. We run Crypto Giving Tuesday and bag season. All the companies and influencers in crypto plug into that. That's usually, I mean, this year we're anticipating again 50 to 100 million in volume right there. And 80% of the donations we process come through those campaigns and programs that we run, including people just going online, going, what charities can I give crypto to? And then landing on the Giving Block to make a donation. That's the value proposition, is that quite literally 80% of the volume we process we're generating. But a lot of that just comes down to building incentive models for charities to fundraise together. We create incentive models for people to donate to more than one charity at a time. Like we've built the platform out very differently. Crypto Adoption Fund allows a donor to give to literally all of the charities we support in a click, just to reduce friction. And it's kind of a cool philanthropic experiment that a lot of donors are using. They really just want to check out for a tax incentive and they don't want to be burdened by the choice of an individual charity. So that ends up being, this free pool of money that goes out to members of the platform. Just a confluence of variables we work on. But in short, if you just want to pop like a donate crypto button on your site, we have that functionality, but we're probably doing a lot of things you don't want. If you're not taking crypto seriously and you just want to, check the box, then you'd probably want to use something that's more like a Shopify, but for crypto payments. Having someone learn about crypto, God, I wish I had a simple answer for that. Learning about crypto can mean a lot of things. If you want to learn about crypto philanthropy, I'll of course recommend our site. Just like read there. You don't have to contact anyone or get pitched, obviously. But there's tons of stuff you can read on without like anyone from my team like hassling you. If you're still just trying to learn, we've just put out a ton of educational content. And if you're trying to learn how to invest, like that's unfortunately got to be on you. There's a lot of reasons to invest in things or not. Given demographic, if you found private schools to be good nonprofits, utilize crypto donations, universities is one of our biggest growth areas this year, universities and faith, in terms of donation volume. For universities in particular, because they're graduating people into the workforce, like those young donors who are getting churned out year over year, like super high hit rate on crypto giving, of course, just based on the demographic overlap. For younger schools, obviously, like you have a longer rate to try to get return. You're not just getting folks immediately out of each class who are graduating into it. So you'd have to have maintained contact with your donor demographic. But yeah, we have lots of private schools that also take it. Universities have bigger brands, and like that class that enters the workforce every year very directly with a point of contact, so they crush it. And then private schools do well, but it's more based on like, are you a private school in Silicon Valley with like a tech program or whatever? It's like, then of course, like you got to be doing it. And if you're not, then it's a matter of how big is our school, how big is our reach, how many young donors are we still in touch with? If we have 100,000, yeah, there's probably enough crypto out there in that demo where we should be investing and hooking them back in through a more tax optimized donation method. I wish I had simpler answers for all of you, and I'm sorry for talking so fast. Let's see. Preferred exchange, yeah, again, back to the same thing. This is very sweet from David. I'm going to read it out loud just to toot my own horn. Maybe because I'm a complete novice in the space, he hedges the compliment, but he said this is the most informative webinar I've ever attended. David, I like you. You made me feel good today, so thank you.
It makes me feel good too. Thank you, David.
I really appreciate that. And David, you are the best webinar audience member that I've ever had. Sorry about that. How is that of your reporting different than traditional donations? If you accept stocks, it's like super similar, pretty much the same process. If you don't accept stocks, I don't want to get into like all of the differences of it, but it's pretty much anyone who is an accountant or a tax advisor, whoever, like they're going to know the process, because again, parallel stocks. It's not. I'm not our accountant, unfortunately, but it's not intricate. All of our nonprofits do it, and it's not like at the end of the year everyone's freaking out. We get a lot of questions. Everyone usually resolves it internally. We get very few questions from anybody's team, so apparently it's pretty point blank. We can receive crypto but haven't gotten any donations. Exactly right, which is why we exist. Sorry, I know I'm not supposed to pitch. We've talked to marketing companies about posting ads to reach crypto users, but they're expensive. Yes, and they're probably not focused on like nonprofit crypto stuff specifically. How can nonprofits get in front of crypto users? They don't have a lot of money to spend on ads. Again, if you want to like freeload off of us, I would check out our site. We've got blog posts and everything else. Like if you don't want to work with us directly, you already have a setup. You don't want us to like set you up with a new thing. I promise it is easy if you want to switch, but you definitely don't have to. Just go on our site. We have blog posts about like literally every aspect of crypto marketing and fundraising. We're developing new stuff every time. Like we have an all clients meeting tomorrow. We're doing like a whole rundown on like the new trends and how to target for end of year, including how to build ads out effectively. But we have a lot of that stuff publicly. So you can definitely freeload off of us. We put a lot out there so that hopefully people see the expertise and the value and ultimately sign up. But check out our site. If you want to get in front of crypto users and don't have money to spend on ads, I would do that. And then also like, if you want to follow us on social, you can see where we're running campaigns. You can literally just like use the hashtags to try to like freeload onto campaigns and stuff we're doing. It won't be as effective, but at least you're not trying to reinvent the wheel, which I completely agree with. Like trying to hire a marketing firm from the ground up is so unbelievably expensive. And then also trying to figure out how to like message to crypto donors as individual nonprofits is absurd. Like there needs to be central sources of truth, which we're trying to build out and provide. Let me see, can't hear Pat. Sorry about that. That's at 1:57 p.m. So it's pretty deep into the webinar. Hopefully everyone else could hear. How long does it take to get set up? Again, like the application is super easy. You just submit the app. I shouldn't say super easy. It takes like an hour. So that's not an easy app, but that's a financial app. That's not ours. That's the Gemini like compliance thing, because they don't let random people set up institutional accounts. That's also where the security and the regulation comes in. That's the hardest part. So you just got to fill out a financial app where they ask like all of these details about you. Once it's approved, we send a widget, which is literally copy and paste. So if you've ever added, or your web person has added a YouTube video to a page, it's the exact same embed. You just paste it onto your website. Very easy. I hope I'm saying your name right. Ruhala said hodl. / maybe they say hodl. It's still like a heated debate in the community. But yes, hodl, agreed. That just means hold. It's a crypto investor thing. That is not financial advice. Top 5 cryptos most donated. This is a great question. I probably should have hit on this. One of the most commonly donated, which is actually tanking our average donation size now toward the beginning of this month, which is pretty funny, is like the Doge community has like been going all in on giving. They like to give what they consider hilarious amounts of money. The vast majority of gifts we get, like this is how pervasive and strong the culture is. We're getting hundreds on a daily basis now, are either 420.69 or just like 69.42 or like whatever. Like they just send those because they think that's hilarious. And they're giving it to charity, so like it doesn't bother us at all. But Doge, in terms of number of individual donors, has exploded recently. Like they've really taken on the charity stuff, partially because we're doing Team C's. They did the Team Trees campaign with like Elon Musk and all those folks last year or the year before, and then became a client of ours. The Team C's campaign is like driving a lot of those Doge homies. Doge donors, Ethereum last year was probably somewhere between 10 and 20% of our volume, Bitcoin making up 50% plus. Like it was really dominant. This year, Ethereum is just past Bitcoin. Ethereum is that much, or has kind of exploded that much. Some of that is NFTs that's driving that. And then there's also a movement called DeFi with different cryptos you can launch off of Ethereum that have driven a lot of wealth and traffic. So Ethereum and Bitcoin are like the 2 leaders in terms of donation volume. And then there are a handful of smaller altcoins, but like those 3 are definitely like the big 3 right now. Like that's where the most excitement online and the donation volume is coming from. Is the Giving Block compatible with CRM systems? Very good question. There's literally only one nonprofit CRM provider that has any crypto integration. It's Neon, because they integrated with us. We are pushing very hard for quite literally every CRM provider to add like direct crypto integrations just to make it easy for our data to transport or import directly. However, they don't exist yet. But yes, we're talking to Salesforce and Blackbaud and everyone else. If you want to knock them on the head and say, yes, this is a priority, especially if you already take crypto, even if it's not just for our data, but just to make it easy to import crypto data, tag it as what crypto, etc. Platforms should have that. So we're working very hard on it. Given the demographics, you think prison reform reentry has a place in this ecosystem? Definitely. I always say this because we get nonprofits asking like, hey, we are a, hunger organization out of Iowa or whatever it is. Just like, how are hunger organizations in Iowa performing? It's like, that's not really how this has worked to date. The vast majority of like what works versus what doesn't is the way that nonprofits are marketing to this community versus how notable the brand is or like one concept versus another. It's not like we have a dominant nonprofit type that gets the most. We have lots of random organizations like, a theater in Hawaii or, an animal shelter in Arizona or whatever it might be. And the ones who do well pretty much regardless of the subject matter. So the answer is yes, prison reform reentry is a universal concept people would be interested in, so long as the way that you message and fundraise is compelling to people outside of your immediate vicinity. Then crypto has a great spot for you for sure. Again, if you have a stable budget and a marketing person, etc., crypto is not like a silver bullet. Is there special language that needs to be included in acknowledgements? One big thing is like, don't say what the crypto is worth. And I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but pretty much the donor and the donor's responsibility from a tax standpoint is to not decide, but figure out what it's worth and report as such. And if you put a certain number in and it's like off because they sent it 1 second or whatever before it got to you, if it's off by a couple cents, then that can be, it can cause like the need for reconciliation. All you tell the donor in that receipt is like, you sent this number of units of this cryptocurrency to us, our nonprofit, EIN, 501c3, all the good stuff, like your address. And then, yeah, you send them that information, the transaction ID from the blockchain, all those things are what pull into ours. Rahala said, great webinar. Thank you so much. Oh, you've already convinced your organization to create NFTs to reward for donors. Here's the thing, I might be wrong. Like, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just always like extra careful about things that, like, one, sound like they'll take a lot of time, and then two, seem like there could be regulatory concerns. I might be wrong on that. I know we haven't deeply considered it, but we kicked it around a couple times before, and if that's like more of a word on the street version of what I'm saying, since you're already moving that direction, you've got folks who are talking about it. Please, I would just say talk to someone knowledgeable and consider the option of it being minted by someone else that you partner with, for instance, versus you minting them from the inside out, just because that could, you could be a financial entity, and then what you're creating could be, securities. Like, I might have this language wrong, but I would just please, make sure that you're not doing something that, one, creates an accounting and time suck type nightmare, and then two, there's not like a regular regulatory concern that could jeopardize your mission. Is crypto giving concentrated in certain regions? No, I mean, for sure, like a little bit. Like, there's more in, say, major cities, major metropolitan areas, but like any major city at this point has like significant crypto wealth, just because there's so much money in it. For I guess what I would say is, like, however, the nonprofits who fundraise it most effectively, a lot of them are not that. It's what you would expect, in the same way like GoFundMe or any other crowdfunding concept would work. Like, a lot of the groups that do the best for us are like these local interesting things where there's like a farm somewhere that takes care of animals, or like a women's shelter in a certain location, and like people all around the world think it's cool to see that there's like a women's shelter somewhere in the world that wants to do XYZ. And some millionaire in Singapore says, like, they had a personal experience, whatever it is, and they just dump a crypto donation on that charity because it plucks their heartstrings. As long as your mission, I guess, is compelling to a donor, no matter where they sit, that's the bigger variable, plus the way you fundraise. It's not like if you're a nonprofit in Silicon Valley, you'll just be able to pop up a crypto button and get a lot of money. It has much more to do with like how you fundraise and your call to action, and whether or not it's kind of universally compelling. We train and donate service dogs to those with disabilities. That's very cool. This would be a good option for us. I can't say universally, but I would say, like, if anyone who's still on here has a question, you can book a demo to run through the tech. They can tell you the value proposition from our side at thegiving.com. But you can also just, like, in general, again, back to my core bullets here, like, if you don't have a full-time social person, your site isn't mobile optimized, I wouldn't go on crypto. It can be a distraction. If your organization has a stable revenue budget, I'd say, yeah, crypto is a dominant enough donor demographic to where, like, you should have that as an option at the very least, and then to hopefully attack it more directly and try to create a pillar while there's so much green grass. But it really, again, comes down to, yes, your mission is great, though, from a crowdfunding standpoint. Like, all of the things you're saying, serving veterans, first responders, and civilians, you have service dogs being donated, people with disabilities. Like, these are all things that I think from a universal human perspective are compelling, which helps with a new donor audience, which for the most part, crypto is new donors, unless you're a really big charity with an existing donor base, whereas you then, of course, want to take crypto just for them. Thank you, David.
Mind if I chime in just super fast before I forget? So you may or may not know, but this webinar is one of the more shared webinars, and there are a lot of people asking about it. And so what I'm going to do for folks right now is just in your chat box there, your questions box, you can actually see a link to our partner at Nonprofit Library, where Pat's team or Pat himself are going to be presenting in much more detail the platform of the Giving Block, so you can see how it works in much more detail. Totally different. That link is there. Registration is limited, so do feel free to register and share it with your colleagues, because some people seem to love getting invited to this one. So feel free to use that. And if for some reason you don't get in, we'll send you the recording. Okay, Pat, please feel free to continue.
Awesome. No, that's the end of the line. You're right. On the next presentation, which I forgot about toward the end of this, so I go into some of the details, is like where we're going to run through like the actual, like how the account looks. We can do, demo of the widget, walk through the donation process, the campaigns and whatnot. But that's the end. A lot of thank yous here at the end, which I really do appreciate. Thank you all for listening. Should I give contact information for the Giving Block, or how do we end this? Because again, I know it's not like commercial.
Absolutely. So I can grab the link and I'll put it in there in just a second, or you can just throw it in there if you want, just in case anyone wants to go check it out. I got it. I'm multitasking over here. I'm typing it over.
No, that's okay.
And I'll grab it in there. And oh wow, there are just so many people saying thank you, and we love that. And we really hope you love being a charity how-to. Pat, thanks so much for this webinar. It's just so informative, and you explain things so well, and I just appreciate how you present. So thank you so much for that. And to our community, we really love having you in the Charity How-To community. Thanks for being here, and come back at our next webinars, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And yeah, anyone has questions, there's obviously the follow-up one where we'll do a demo and run through the product, and then thegivingblock.com is our site, at The Giving Block on social. I'm Pat Duffy, our co-founder. And yeah, thank you guys for coming, and hopefully hear from you.
Thanks.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
We will have access
Bye.
to the slides and webinar recording in your Charity How-To library by tomorrow morning. So just make sure to take care of that. And also, please complete the survey that will pop up once we close the webinar, because your comments always helps us improve our content. So we appreciate you taking the time to complete that anonymous survey. It'll take you 60 seconds. Have a great rest of your day, and have a great, day. Bye, everyone.
Yay. Bye.